Hey, welcome to the New Home Insights podcast by John Burns Real Estate Consulting. I'm Dean Worley, your host. Each episode, we're going to bring you some of the best minds in the housing business talking about some fascinating topics or trend or innovation or issue, just like the one you're about to listen to. Enjoy. Hey, this is Dean Worley for New Home Insights by John Burns Real Estate Consulting with part two of our discussions with some of the people who brought us some of the best selling master plans of 2020. First up today is Colleen Edwards. She is responsible for marketing and branding for the River Islands Master Plan. That's an 11,000 unit mixed use community in the Central Valley of Northern California. She has long been a California legend in the marketing of new homes. She's been a columnist, a radio host, and a podcaster herself, jealous, and has even written a book on new home marketing, also jealous. She is in the state's Home Building Foundation's Hall of Fame and deserves it. Colleen Edwards, Managing Director at the River Islands Master Plan. Good morning. How are you?
Hi, great. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. Colleen is kind of the driving force, in my opinion, of the River Islands Master Plan. She's one of the legends of California sales and marketing and creative force behind housing for many, many years. Okay, not that many. Okay, many years. And she's been at River Islands Master Plan since, I believe, 2014, from its inception. Is that right?
Absolutely so.
And this year, or this past year, River Islands made the top 50 best-selling list of ours, coming in at 24th with 640 sales. River Islands has been successful from day one, but that's a 56% increase year over year. Remarkable.
I want you to think about this. This is like you've thrown a party and a bunch of people you didn't invite had showed up. We were happy to have them all in.
That's good. That's a good kind of party, because sometimes that can go sideways and you're not happy to have them show up. You know, friends of friends, and they're packing heat.
I had a kegger. It was fine.
They were friendly. So let's start off. What has been your biggest main sales driver at River Islands this past year and into this year?
The moment Mark Zuckerberg told people they could work from home, the number of people beating a path to River Islands and buying a house, you could see the difference in our sales in 1 year. It's still us. We're still in the same location. It's just that 73 miles from the Silicon Valley just didn't matter anymore. So in the early days, people bought in spite of our location. Given the world today, they bought because of our location. And again, what a difference a day makes. Given that people can buy a house for about half the price of that in the Bay Area, and that the houses have up to 6 bedrooms, all of a sudden you could buy a home that you could afford to live in with a home office or 2 home offices and maybe a home classroom. So it took us from being behind the crowd way to the top of the class. It's been a wonderful place to be.
We should geographically place you. As a matter of fact, I should have done that already. So Lathrop, as you said, is about 70 miles or so from Silicon Valley. It's
about the same from San Francisco.
Francisco. So, but it really has historically always been impacted strongly by those folks working in community into jobs into the core Bay Area. And if anything, more so as the years have gone on, as your prices have increased.
So about a third of our buyers, early on, we were 50-50, 50% local Central Valley buyer move up, 50% Bay Area buyer, split into young tech families who are willing to drive forever to get their first house, and seniors who didn't care what rush hour traffic was like because they weren't out in it anyway.
Yeah. So you have, I'm going to ask this question. I know the answer. You have definitely been impacted by that COVID, that work from home, that out migration from the Bay Area. Has it been, are they looking for a lower density product? Are they looking for a lower density environment? Are they looking for master plan amenities? What's been kind of the main driver, I guess?
Luckily, you ask a good question and you embed some answers in it. What ended up happening is people wanted to be able to have the great outdoors closer to them, and yet they wanted to have what I call the great indoors as well. When you live on 5,000 acres, it's pretty easy to keep 6 feet apart. And oddly, this is funny because I don't take any claim for being Irish and prescient, but my headline for the website says "Escape to the Islands." That's what people did for the last year.
What? Really? That's gonna come back to haunt you because I'm gonna ask you for your crystal
You
ball at
know
the end
that.
here. Uh, has there been any segment that has been your outstanding performer? Any buyer segment that has really become a bigger part of your demand than you expected, or has really driven the sales this year or this past year or so?
Well, the younger buyer profile, the first and
Younger buyer.
second time buyers, the people that already had a house, maybe it was already a condo, closer into their jobs in the Silicon Valley, just thought we're moving out now. It's time to get some fresh air. And because of the fact that we had taken care of the schools issue by starting our own series of charter schools, people came out and they weren't just doing it for themselves; they were doing it as an investment in their family's future, and that certainly paid off.
Has there been any specific marketing tactic or outreach or social media, whatever, that has been particularly impactful and helpful lately?
I'd say that the social media has led the band on
Yeah.
all of this because it meant that several times a week we could change out the visual, show a video clip. You're thinking about working from home and you see somebody paddleboarding out the lake out the back of your house, and you're thinking, I'm sitting in a condo in Sunnyvale. What the what? So I think we were able to show a lot of romance about what your life could be like outside of your little home office and gave you the notion that there was a life to be had out here.
You've had a lot of sort of the apartment folks going from a Bay Area apartment directly to your big, beautiful homes there.
Well, if you think about it, you need to be able to make about 100,000 bucks to move into River Islands, and who in the Silicon Valley isn't making at least $100,000 a year? So for the younger kids, if it was a matter of getting their down payment together, they were fine on their monthly. But for their down, I absolutely believe that River Islands is as driven by the influencers of our buyers as it is by the buyers themselves. And let me take a minute on this because this is a good point. When you're a youngster,
Yeah.
the influencer is your mother who calls up and says, I found your house and I'm going to help you with the down payment. If you're a senior, it's because your kids called you and said, we're buying at River Islands. Why don't you come out too and we can all be together? We see lots and lots of family buys like that.
So they're being, and so for the most part, they had no ties early on to that part of the world, that part of California. But increasingly, you're getting folks that word of mouth is becoming critical.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it reminds me of the way that the world used to be, where you lived in one
Yeah.
house and your grandparents lived a couple blocks away, and your crazy Uncle Charlie lived in the same neighborhood. We see a lot of that now. So it's not just some of our product planning is terrific and takes care of that in one house. We'll have a multi-generational house with separate entrances, but we also just see people buying product that suits them, and yet they're all kind of within walking distance. Um, I had a lovely note from Doug Dolan, star architect. He was out there
Yeah.
on the first day of school last year and wrote us a love note that said essentially, this just made my heart happy to see all these people of all these ages dropping off all these kids, so ethnically diverse, so culturally diverse, all at this school. He goes, this is what we do. This is why we do what we do.
So ethnically, or I should say demographically, then it's a pretty good fit for the Bay Area, isn't it? Maybe more than people might think. Moving from the Bay Area to the Central Valley, you still have that diversity that a lot of folks desire.
Well, it's just so cool. If you took a look at the 2010 census for Lathrop, for example, versus the 2020, talk about
Oh yeah,
a crazy quilt now of folks
yeah.
from just all over, truly representing the whole Bay Area at its best. And the best way of looking, I think, is to be Doug Dolan and look at the schoolyard. It just makes your heart happy.
So you have 5,000 acres there. So staying 6 feet apart is not as hard as it may be in other places. But has it been a chore, or have you had to change tactics to maintain the sort of the livability of your master plan in this COVID time?
Well, yes and no. So we have dedicated a number of our parks to the city. And so if the city of Lathrop has their parks closed because they don't want people getting cooties off the playground equipment, then we're closed as well. But you don't close down a trail system on the San Joaquin River. And you don't close down the number of areas that are just wide open and paved along all those lakes. A number of our lakes, as you know, Dean, are built with houses all around them, and therefore, primarily for the people that live in that neighborhood. But we have community lakes as well. and you don't close down a shoreline. So people still have this feeling of being outside. If you're on the San Joaquin River, I mean, there's all of the bugs and bunnies, all of the flora and fauna. And there's really quite a bit of that trail open already. So I think that's been very attractive for people. And even if the playground equipment is closed, the green areas of the park are open. So for people that like green and blue, I'm delivering it. I got a great big blue sky and a lot of green parks and a lot of blue water
Yeah.
for them.
And the bugs along the rivers, but not so many alligators, are there? I'm sorry. I've there's
Take
so
that,
many.
Florida.
There's a there's only 6 California master plans on our top 50 list, and there's 11 Florida master plans. So I'm just being defensive here.
No, I got to tell you, I'm so proud because not only are we number 24 on your list, but if you cite all of your communities, we're number 1 for Northern California.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Don't think I didn't make a headline about that.
No, it's harder. It's harder for we don't have the land, or it's tougher to get entitlements. It's more difficult in California than in Florida and Texas for sure. Do you think that master plans are viewed now as safer, just relative to standalone communities or even infill areas? Is that part of what's driving this too?
Oh, we certainly hear that in the sales offices from the prospects. They think that they're going to lead a healthier life by being out with us. And Dean, that wasn't just because of COVID. That's just people coming out and recognizing that you don't have to get in your car to recreate, that everything is within walking distance or bicycling distance of your house. And in years to come, as we build the business park and the town center, same difference. The idea, I think, that's what's worked for us for all these years since 2014 is your life may have been very auto focused Monday through Friday, but the minute you got home, you left the keys in the car and had your River Island life, your River Island weekend. And when we do surveys of our buyers to find out how do you like living here, it turns out that if anything, they want us to bring more things so they never have to leave River Islands. They look forward to the opening of the farmers market in the spring. We're going to do a drive-in movie night because we can't do movie nights in the park yet. People love being together. And although they'll tell me that they bought the house because the community was beautiful and the houses were a good value, the reason that they love staying at River Islands is because they love hanging around and they love their neighbors. Who says that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, so master plans have always brought that, what you just described, to the table. But do you think that master plans are maybe getting a little more of a pop, a little more of a premium than they did in this new era, relative to pre-COVID?
Well, yes.
Price,
Again, the
pace,
open
either.
space is phenomenal. But I'll also say that I think that at this point there's 2 different kinds of master plans. There are those that look like subdivisions that just happen to all join together in kind of a quilt of houses. And there are those that are where neighborhoods are separated and demarcated by parklands, long open parkways, places for people to be and do. We talk about mixed use, and it'll be years before we're truly mixed use with a transit center. Like I said earlier, the business park, the town center. But people get the gist of that already, and I think that they invest themselves in that.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because in the analyses we do, in the feasibility studies that we do, I differentiate between a true cohesive master plan like River Islands and that aggregation of neighborhoods. And I've often found myself calling them like quasi master plans because they're not really master plans, but yours
Yeah.
is.
And you look at the old ones. You drive through San Ramon. This valley itself, before it became kind of landlocked, was, there were a lot of master plans here. But looking back, what they are is just a collection of subdivisions that happen to abut each other.
How have things been going so far in 21? More of the same, just as well?
I think my biggest problem now is making sure that people feel like they're being treated well and that the builders are engaged in the River Islands culture in terms of treating people fairly, not making them feel like after going through, if they come from the Bay Area, my worry is that they've already been through all the hoops of trying to buy a resale in the Bay Area and been rejected and so exhausted before they even get to River Islands. And then when they find out that there's a priority list or a quasi lottery or that prices are going up between releases, I just don't want them to do a total freak out and think that there's no room for them there at River Islands either. So I literally want to run an ad that says, don't worry, we've got 11,000 more houses coming. Just hang in there with us. We're going to keep building them, you know? We're like Planters Peanuts. We got another one behind it. Just don't worry about it.
You hear that everywhere, all over the country. The biggest problem right now is keeping up with deliveries, with having any kind of inventory whatsoever. It's the proverbial good problem to have, but it still is a problem.
It's a problem. And what I find very important is that my relationships with the marketing directors of all of the different builders in the community, I would say, is pretty strong. And I check with them all the time about, are you going to get your previews started, next month? Because obviously I want more inventory. If they aren't, what's the holdup? Can I help you? One of our builders is thinking that they're not going to really get started very soon. I said, the Welcome Center is currently not open because of COVID. Can I give you my conference room and turn it into your pre-sales area? So what I'm finding is you got to stay really flexible in a time like this and just practice ice skating backwards, because you just don't know. I mean, while juggling live eels, I mean, you just have no control, Dean. You just have to keep a smile and try to be smart all the time for everybody.
I can never ice skate backwards. It never happened for I've never tried to juggle eels. I might be better at that. They are. They can be difficult. I frankly don't like dead eels either. Let's end with just what is it that sets River Islands apart from the background noise? What is the most unique thing you offer?
I'm going to tell you this. You know how they used to say in many master plan campaigns, this is a place to live, work, play, whatever. If I were going to put all those things out there, I think the big word for people is belong. People want to put down roots. They want to feel like this is going to be their place, that it's not just a transitory place going someplace better. I think people imagine themselves moving to the next neighborhood and the next neighborhood. So in my way of thinking, I spend almost as much time on my residents after the point of sale, making sure they're happy. We just hired an events coordinator just to think of things for them to do. A shamrock scavenger hunt is coming up for St. Patrick's Day, for example. Back in the day when I was just worrying about marketing subdivisions or marketing master plans that were more like, subdivisions, I never thought about things after the point of sale. But this notion of belonging, I think, answers a lot of the yearning of people, both the millennials who kind of don't know where they belong, and our active adult buyer who really does want to put down roots and say, I didn't compromise here. I got everything I wanted.
I mean, that's a great point. Anyone can put the entry monumentation up that provides that sense of arrival, but a real sense of arrival is what you feel inside, like you've arrived at home, and that takes a lot more than just monumentation.
I am now the Margaret Mead of the Trobriand Islanders at River Islands. Whoever thought I'd become a social anthropologist in my old age?
That is a great. Let's end on that reference. I have not heard a Margaret Mead reference ever doing this podcast, so that's a great one. I appreciate that. Colleen, thank you so much for coming on.
Great playing Name That Tune.
Awesome. Thanks, Colleen.
See you later.
Next up, Laura Cole. She is the residential and lifestyle leader at Lakewood Ranch. It's a 31,000-acre master plan near Sarasota, Florida. That means she handles 21 actively selling communities with over 16,000 lots and 20 builders. Prior to joining the Lakewood Ranch team, Laura was the chief marketing officer for commercial and residential developments in the Washington, D.C. complex for a few firms. But then she followed her love for alligators in her pool down to Florida and has never looked back. Laura, hi. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing pretty well. We're all doing fairly well, all things considered, I think, at least in this industry. In fact, that's what we're talking about, how well your master plan, Lakewood Ranch, did in 2020, and I'm assuming, I hope, continues to do here in 21.
Indeed. Mm-hmm.
So Lakewood Ranch is in lovely Sarasota, Florida, and it was the second best-selling master plan in the country last year with a stunning 2,149 sales. Very impressive. Congratulations first.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was your best, most important sales driver in a big picture way for Lakewood Ranch last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, you kind of mentioned the fact that we're in Florida and Sarasota, which of course are, have been a magnet for immigration. We're fortunate to be in a great geographic area. But I think if you had to point to one factor, it would be Lakewood Ranch's multi-generational appeal. And that particularly came into play, during COVID, because we were at the ready with a lifestyle and home offerings that really met the intense demand that came from COVID across the pricing spectrum and across the demographic spectrum.
So is there no buyer segment that kind of dominates, or are you really just a very, very broad-based?
We just really, we were really fortunate to have a lot of inventory and new neighborhoods coming on the market at a time when finally that millennial buyer really kind of came roaring through. And when you couple that with, the boomers that have really sort of sustained the market here, since after the downturn, and then every sort of, if you will, and demographics in between, which are of course less, but still fairly active in this market as move-up buyers. It really, we just saw buyers across the spectrum and happened to be fortunate that we'd worked with builders proactively to meet that demand. Certainly, we couldn't have, projected this unprecedented growth, but we did have, we were there, I think, at the ready, and there was a lifestyle here that really did appeal to all demographics.
So you were kind of ready to go. If I'm reading between the lines, though, you did get some of that augmentation from those folks fleeing maybe denser areas, denser product.
Yeah. No question. I mean, we traditionally draw from the Northeast anyways. And of course, we'd seen heightened demand from that market, especially the high tax markets. But we definitely saw, acceleration in sales coming from urban areas and bigger metropolitan areas, particularly around, I think we see it in sort of with two groups. One is we saw the younger families that because of remote work had the flexibility of relocating to Lakewood Ranch and away from some of those areas, mostly because they had family in the area here. So it was a comfortable move. And then secondly, what we saw a fair amount of is, retirees or folks that were maybe 1 to 2 years away from retirement and, were given sort of dispensation to carry out the rest of their years, working remotely. So we saw quite a few people who accelerated their home sales, because of COVID. And again, those folks, largely came from the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic areas and somewhat, Chicago.
This is a hard question, but do you get a sense that you're getting some extra retiree demand, even beyond those folks who are sort of newly enabled to cash out? In other words, because theoretically, the retirees shouldn't be impacted by that work from home consideration.
Correct.
But do you feel like there's more going, even retirees who were already working, quote unquote, from home have increased their demand?
Like I said, I think we saw the folks that were near retirement. I think that's what we've been hearing a lot. Sort of, hey, look, we have 1 to 2 years left, maybe even 3, and our companies are saying that's fine. We'll we'll let you work from home until you reach that retirement age. And, I think like everybody else, when we first came into the pandemic, I think everybody was really concerned about that retiree buyer. And I think most places around the country saw a delay in the active adult buyer coming back. We didn't see that. We actually had a brand new active adult community that opened in March and has been performing at about 24 to 28 sales a month since they opened in March. So we saw something a little bit different here.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of folks concerned about that age-qualified active adult market being hit hard. And we did see, California, Nevada, we did see some of that early on, but then it kind of bounced back a little later than that family buyer.
It did,
but it did bounce back, yeah. How about marketing tactics? Was there anything specific that you did differently or better that was able to connect and draw some folks in?
Yeah, I think, luck has a lot to do with success and timing. And we spent 2019 completely restructuring our marketing effort, our whole marketing program and staffing and everything else. So we actually restructured and closed down 4 information centers. We centralized it into one storefront on our main street. honestly reshuffled all the deck in terms of our hiring, and focused on really moving our customer service online and on hiring people that were comfortable working with people online. And then we built up our arsenal of tools, again, to be more responsive, especially being, folks who are buying from the Northeast and moving to Florida. We kind of bet on the fact that most people were going to continue to do more of their research online. And that even potentially buy sight unseen. We really posited that in 2019 and got a lot of crazy stares. But we were really lucky because we had a completely, again, we had an enthusiastic, very well talented group who was versed in dealing with customers online. And we had implemented chat. We put in a new interactive map, which really helped us deal with our one of our biggest issues, which is just our scale. We're about the size of two Manhattans put together, and it's always difficult to have people really sort of understand the scale, proximity to services and amenities and things like that. And so, we invested very heavily before 2020 and putting all these tools in place. And we were lucky because I think it would have taken numerous years to get the customer or the consumer to really kind of catch up or to use those tools, to their maximum. And what we had was a leapfrog event, right? Yeah. Where we had much quicker adoption. And so, again, being lucky really pays off. But I do think that those investments in technology, and we continue to do it to this day, are paying huge dividends for us.
Laura, you said luck or lucky at least 4 times in your answer. Take responsibility. Say, no. We saw something. We had a feeling in 2019. Come on.
Well, I guess I'll take a little bit of with my team because we got a lot of hits along the way, and a lot of frowns as to why we were moving from a more in-person operation to this sort of online experience. But we're certainly happy we did.
Yeah. How about just maintaining the lifestyle of your master plan of Lakewood Ranch during 2020 with all the COVID restrictions? Was that difficult? Yeah. Did you do something different?
Yeah, it was kind of difficult and honestly kind of exciting. We're again really fortunate that we have really at the very top of our company, there is just this really deep, profound belief that lifestyle, or what we call sort of the software of the community, is our biggest differentiator. And that we invest in it. We hired somebody a number of years ago, Monica Onstad, who was recognized nationally and she's just a creative force. And she and her team kind of saw this as a cool challenge and went quickly. And they're young and versed in in online technology and social media and things like that. So they quickly were able to sort of pivot to online virtual events, like a lot of people did. And I think the important thing there was that, when you kind of live and learn, right? I mean, some were very successful, some were not successful. Yeah. But the important thing was that we were there with our community in lockstep as they were experiencing this. And when we felt like we could move back to more in-person type of events and activities. We just had our annual camp out. We have our farmers market has been activated again. That we did it in a safe way, but you could sense when there was fatigue over virtual and how you really needed to adapt to some other type of activity. So I think that was really important. And then one of the things is, don't let, any of these type of situations, go without thinking about innovation. And so during the last year, we launched an app, not only for folks to really get more connected with the community and be aware of everything that's going on during the day, but also we really were focused on our local business community. And so we built a resident loyalty program to help our local businesses not only get visibility through this app, but also make sure that our residents really supported local business during this time.
How about in terms of safety? Master plans are just viewed as the more cohesive. Do you think that gives master plans a bit of an advantage against standalone communities without that cohesiveness?
So
advantage, I should say, right?
Right. I have a kind of theory about master plan communities that just because of what they are, I think they tend to attract more rule followers. And I remember, at one time being up in Houston and talking to the folks at the Woodlands, and they said, gosh, we thought we were going to get scientists. We really got a lot of engineers because they seem to migrate to master plan communities. But I do think, master plan communities, just because you really sort of control your boundaries a little bit better, say, than a jurisdiction or, sort of loose federations of suburban neighborhoods, that there are practices that I think you can implement, and that's really viewed in terms of modeling behavior. And so here, I will tell you, just in Florida, as you go throughout our community, if you go to the grocery store, I would say a very strong majority of people have masks on. When you get outside of the boundaries, things start looking a little different here. And I correlate that with probably, master plan communities just in general, sort of the psychographics they attract, I would say.
That's interesting. You're less likely, because of the nature of a master plan, to get this kind of iconoclast or those government ain't going to tell me what to do kind of a buyer than elsewhere.
We have those too.
Well, you're Florida, so yeah,
right, exactly. But it is to me. It was sort of. I was like, gosh, it did seem like a stark difference being within the community, what we call the ranch or the bubble, and when you leave the ranch, what your experience is elsewhere.
So, I think master plans have always had something of a premium over same home in a non-master plan environment. Do you think COVID has increased that, even above the folks it attracts? Do you think that premium has gone up a bit?
Yeah, it's hard in this environment, right, where pricing has really, has gone up so much because of material costs, because of COVID, because of trying to deal with this intense demand, right, and a backlog of getting new lots and everything online. So there's a lot of challenges that I think are pushing up pricing overall, and I think that's going to have to get a little bit parsed out, but. Again, I think that because, to some degree, a lot of these moves, going back to one of your first questions about, hey, did you see people leaving urban areas? Well, those folks are leaving urban areas that have good schools, that have good retail, that have a lot of services that are at their fingertips. And I feel like we're kind of lucky because we're 27 years into our master plan. So we have this sort of critical mass where people kind of can plug in. I think that's just I feel like the master plan communities certainly had the ability to attract people who were more likely in some cases to be making emotional decisions, were going to be in a better place, I think, to get the price premiums. So
Lakewood, tell me if this is fair. Lakewood Ranch is one of those places where if you're asked where you live, you say I live in Lakewood Ranch as opposed to I live in Sarasota. Is that kind of that destination?
I do. I think, partially, again, we've been around for a little while, but, we're between two counties, between Manatee County and Sarasota County. We've seen sort of the center of government and population gravitate out here. So I say sort of the center of gravity for both of those counties is actually moving in our direction. And so there's a fair amount of brand equity around Lakewood Ranch and a kind of a deep sense of community. And I do think it's a lot of the software we talk about that people obviously they come here, they send their kids to school, they may end up retiring here, but there is a deep sense of community and pride around the name of Lakewood Ranch.
I only knew Sarasota, by the way, because it was where the Pittsburgh Pirates had their spring training, I think.
They're still here.
They're still there, yeah.
Yeah. They're going to start, I think, next week,
nice.
if not already.
Even though it's from Long Beach, California, they're my favorite team. Weird story, won't tell it.
I was like, I'm trying to make that connection in my head. But
there's no connection. It's weird. Have things been pretty good so far in 21?
Yeah, so we have, I think I've talked to a number of colleagues around the country who are in the same boat, particularly the Sun Belt, I think MPCs. We didn't see a slowdown in traffic activity or sales after the first of the year. And in fact, we've had week over week growth starting from the top, from website traffic to visitors on site to sales. And that I keep hearing the phrase, it's a good problem to have. So this, what I call this sort of there's a little bit of of a pain point around really dealing with this heightened demand at this point from our builders. And I think they're doing a terrific job of managing the inventory that they have. You're seeing allocations now, and also really keeping, customer expectations in check, because, there is going to be a period here where, patience is going to be rewarded. But for those who have an expectation of finding their perfect lot and perfect home within 6 months, I think it's just going to take a little bit more time than that until we kind of work our way through this heightened period of demand.
Yeah, we're hearing that all over the country. The biggest problem is getting the product and having inventory, and we're near completion. Yeah. Let's end with what has been kind of the most unique item or thing or factor about your master plan, about Lakewood Ranch, that really lets you stand out?
I guess I'll go back, not to repeat, but I think it's the lifestyle. Again, it's just a really, most of the folks are uprooting from an area that they've lived in for a long time. They have family, they have, favorite restaurants and things like that. And what I hear time and time again, and it really doesn't matter if you're, a young couple or, starting a new family or even retiring here, that it's an easy place to plug and play. And you're going to find your affinity with a group here that likes doing what you do, that, certainly takes advantage of all of the outdoor amenities and recreations that Lakewood Ranch offers. So I think the lifestyle really is the all-encompassing thing that I think drives people here, and ultimately, makes them happy that they made that move, and encourages them to bring family and friends to live here as well.
And no gators. That's something. Oh, wait, hold on. Gators?
Every pun, you should assume.
Gosh, okay, wow. That's why I don't live in Florida.
When I came here for DC, it was this was explained to me, and I think it's a good rule to follow.
Now you've scared me again. Thank you. Actually, you know what? One more. Since you are the market psychic, what happens in 2022? Go.
Oh man, I think we end this year stabilizing, and I think that's going to be. And when I say stabilizing, I think we start getting more to the demand drivers and the inventories that are going to be a little bit more leveled off. So I would say 2022 is going to look more like 2019.
Like 19. I like that. 22 like 19. I'm quoting you. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Laura, so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Last up, but very much not least, we have Christen Johnson. She became Johnson Development's marketing director in 2001 and is now the senior vice president of marketing. She leads a team that handles the company's marketing and outreach efforts, its image, its social media. She has been the marketing professional of the year twice and is a member of the Urban Land Institute. Now we have Christen Johnson from Johnson Development, based in Texas. Christen, how are you doing this morning?
Doing great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if it is because of or in spite of you guys being entirely in Texas, but you had 4 master plans that made our top 50 best-selling master plans for 2020. Pretty
we do.
impressive.
We do. We're very proud of that. Yes. Sienna, Cross Creek, Harvest Green, and Trinity Falls.
And 3 of those were in Houston, Sienna, Cross Creek, and Harvest Green. And then 1, Trinity Falls, is in Dallas, Texas.
That's correct. It's one of our newer communities, and we were very proud for it to make the list this year.
Yeah, no, it's very impressive. Honestly, 4, I think, is the second most from one developer. So pat yourself in the back.
Thank you. Thank you. More top selling communities than any other developer in Texas. So I'm not going to lie, we're very proud of that.
What has been your biggest driver then in sales for your master plans this past year plus?
One of the things we pride ourselves on is our great amenity and lifestyle offerings that we have in our communities. We like to promote active lifestyles. So I do think that plays an important role in our communities, and that people see the benefits of that. We have lifestyle directors that offer a year-round calendar of events and things to do for residents. And then just being good stewards of the land. We take care of the communities and believe in the environment and sustainability. We've got a lot of great offerings as far as our trails and just ways that we give back, both through the environment and then also through various things. Like we've got foundations that are collected at the closing of each home sale that go back in perpetuity for the communities for the benefit of residents.
Have you seen any pattern or trend this past year plus of a certain buyer segment, a type of buyer that has been more active than they were before, has really fueled a lot of your demand?
So, well, as we all know, a lot of the younger buyers are now entering, and they have been into the home buying phase for a while now. So we're doing a lot to appeal to them. And then also we've got different segments throughout our communities, which is one of the things we're proud of, different builder offerings and different price offerings. So we pretty much have something for everybody, whether you're looking for a townhome all the way to a luxury custom home. We've got something for everybody. And then we often find too in our communities that, especially communities that have been around for several years, that a lot of our buyers come from within the community. And so maybe they have a change in lifestyle, or they've added more children, or maybe they're empty nesters. And so we see a lot of our buyers coming from within our communities as well, which is a great testament to them appreciating what we're offering.
Did your master plans get some of that, or even a lot of that COVID augmented demand from folks coming from maybe more urban areas, or maybe more dense product into a little bit less dense product, a little bit more suburban location?
Yes, absolutely. I think a silver lining of COVID was that a lot of firms, as we saw, successfully implemented the work from home strategies, which moving forward, I think we're going to see more and more of that. So I think as people sat inside their homes and looked around and saw what was working or what wasn't working, maybe they have kids that were doing schoolwork at home now, or they needed more office space. I think that a lot of people just realized their current environment wasn't working anymore. And then, of course, there's a huge draw with the interest rates being so good.
Have you done anything to accommodate the work from home folks? Have you changed anything? Are you planning on changing anything?
As far as floor plans, or
even floor plans, or even maybe something in the amenity center, or something in common spaces too.
So yes, we have actually, one of our greatest resources have been our branded community apps, which has allowed our residents to schedule classes and get directions to amenities, to parks and things and so forth. And then also we have a reservation system that our residents have been able to use, so they can actually make a reservation to go visit our fitness center, or maybe the pools, different, just as we've needed to have safety measures brought in. So those apps have been real important for us over the past many months to allow us to keep functioning and for our residents to have as much use of our amenities as possible.
So you've adapted for your current residents. What have you done differently, or what has worked better in terms of outreach and marketing to new buyers?
Well, first of all, we have a great marketing team that is just an amazing group of marketing professional from all different ages and backgrounds. And so between our teams, they've just done such a great job of appealing to different buyers. We've got, we like to have a personal approach, and then in appealing to those wide variety of ages and buyers, we often find that groups might like information provided to them in different ways. So as an example, some of our younger prospects might want to see a video tour, a home walkthrough on TikTok, and we're available there for that. And then some other buyers might still like to touch and feel the brochures, except now we offer them more in the form of like a lifestyle brochure or magazine. But mainly, one of the things is just to be sensitive to everybody and to offer a wide variety of ways for prospects to find us and to tour our model homes. And so a big way that we've done that is through video technology and allowing people to tour the homes without physically having to come out. Now, if they want to do that, of course they can. But we also offer online a lot of those tours there. And that's important too, because we see a lot of relocations, people coming from other states who might not be able to physically come out at that moment. And so we like to offer, like I said, a variety of ways for people to tour our model homes and our communities.
Are you getting the sight unseen, sign a contract without ever coming kind of buyers ever?
I have heard stories. I have heard stories also of people spending the night in their cars waiting for the specific home site that they want. So, we heard stories about that, going back years ago, and I'm hearing them again. So it's amazing the demand that has been out there for new home construction. So we're really pleased to see that, of course.
So you mentioned you've been adapting with some scheduling and things like that to accommodate more people being on site and accommodate your residents. What have you done to make sure you maintain that livability in your master plan in this shelter-in-place environment?
Well, I think that goes back to our lifestyle directors, the directors of fun, as we like to call them. They offer the year-round calendar of events, as I mentioned, and we've just been adaptable in how we appeal to people. Maybe instead of a giant event with hundreds of people, one of the things we've done is like drive-in movies or food truck. And also when we're designing amenity spaces, we've started to look at more of like food truck alley type of things where people can safely gather and visit a food truck and maybe hear a little bit of music. And then, of course, things like virtual cooking classes and blood drives, things like that. So we've still been able to have people out and see the community and get a good feel and taste of the amenity offerings that we have in a safe environment.
Safety is a great word. Do you think that buyers and potential buyers view master plans as safer spaces right now compared to standalone or maybe infill locations?
So I think one of the benefits we have as a master plan community developer, and specifically at Johnson Development, is that people can get out of those high density areas that they may be in, the more clustered areas of the city, and come out to the suburbs and be closer to nature. So I do think there is an appeal for master plan communities right now just to utilize our trails. We've got miles and miles of trail systems, outdoors, open spaces. And even as the kids might be learning from home, they can go outside and have those more areas just to roam around. So I do think that there is a value there in the master plan communities and being out away from, like I said, those high density spaces. And then, of course, the community apps that I mentioned with the waivers for safety, we're able to implement those, and just our teams on the ground. A lot of our communities have HOAs on site and management teams, so we're able to respond to things very quickly.
Do you think that master plans, in part because of what you just said, are gaining kind of a bigger premium over like product in a non-master plan setting relative to years past?
I do, because I do think, like I said, there's a perceived value, and the value is very real, that of what you can get more of at a master plan community than maybe just a typical traditional neighborhood. And so, and some of that is that master plan communities at Johnson Development, we design them as a mixed use with spaces so that if you live there, you don't even have to travel very far to get what you need. There's shopping, there's groceries, there's dining, and then in many cases, on-site schools right there in the community. Among the 19 communities that we have active today, I believe we have 31 on-site schools. Is the number that we're at right now, and they're continually being added. So that's a huge benefit, that when you live in a master plan community, everything is pretty much just right there for you today.
Speaking of today, have things been going along just as well in 21 as they were in 2020?
I am pleased to report, yes. 2020 broke all sales records, which is amazing because going back to April, we were not sure what was going to happen. I don't think anybody was, but we had a year-over-year increase of 23%. And this year in 2021, it's shaping up to be comparable to 2020. And as of right now, we are over projections. So we're very pleased with that. And it speaks to a strong demand for new housing.
Let's end with this, Christen. What is maybe the most unique or special kind of feature at pick any one or more of your master plans that really sets you apart?
Oh, wow. Just one?
Well, you can do two then.
Okay. Well, I'll just kind of speak from the heart here. So I might give you a few, but the variety of choices that we offer, I think, is huge. The variety, instead of just like one or two home builders, we handpick our builders, bring them in. And so they're top notch and variety of housing types and prices. But I think the thing that's so special about Johnson Development is just going back to how we're good stewards of the land. And, one of the things I love is, to give you an example, is the art that we put in our communities. If you go to any of our communities, you'll see, we've got a giant chair and veranda, which is kind of fun. It's interactive. You can take a picture with. We've got some quirky things like the Texas's largest carrot and Harvest Green. And also in Harvest Green, it's really a wonderful feature because 70% of the landscaping is edible. So if you're cooking dinner, you can literally walk outside and get some herbs and seasoning to put in your dinner. And so we're not just building communities for people to buy a house. This is a lifestyle that people can live for many, many years to come and make great friendships and enjoy all the offerings that we provide.
Wow. I love the edible landscape. Do you have turmeric? That's like the hot, whatever that is, hot seasoning right now. I'm just
you know what? We might. We might.
Do.
You'll have to come out and try it.
I'll be focusing on the hops. Culling your hops for you in brewing beer. I wish I knew how to brew beer. I do not. Thank you.
You're welcome to come out.
Thank you, Christen. That was very eye-opening and insightful. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. It was great visiting with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is Dean with a big shout out and thanks to all the folks who participated in our 2 best-selling master plan episodes. You were fantastic. Thanks again. Until next time, we'll see you then.